new American majority of young voters, people of color, and unmarried women. It's a place the left sees as a great target of opportunity, and we have to make sure that doesn't happen, she said, referring to Democratic efforts to register voters from traditionally underrepresented voting blocs. So, Cornell, it's out there, black and white. Talk to us about the effort to stop voters from participating, voters that Republicans have deemed they don't like, they don't want to see registered, they don't want to see in this process.
Well, it was great reporting, Heidi, on this, and it is shocking. But let's not disconnect this, quite frankly, from the conversation we were having earlier about Biden and Obama not being legitimate and their coalition not being legitimate. That is within this continuum. This is why do we need muscle at polls, right? And you're not even supposed to be doing electioneering at polls. This reeks of Jim Crowism era. This absolutely reeks of intimidation tactics. And guess what? I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I got a pretty good idea of where this muscle is going to be showing up at the polls, and it's going to be in places where Democrats are. It's going to be a place where minority voters are. These sort of intimidation tactics, we've seen an ugly history of in this country, and quite frankly, it's dangerous. It is absolutely dangerous. If you think you're going to show up in these polling places where young people and people of color participate and intimidate them in 2022, this is not 1962 anymore. This is just not going to happen. What you're playing with is violence. What you're playing with is absolute fire. And last point on this, once upon a time, I when you were chairman of the RNC, I remember there had been a conversation about how about Republicans try to in fact reach out to minorities? How about, as opposed to trying to stop them from voting and intimidating them, how about we try to offer up some policy sort of solutions and ideals to actually try to bring them into the Republican Party?
I gave that speech at the NAACP my first year at their national convention, and I made that exact point. And I also want to clarify for folks, we understand exactly what the nub of Heidi's reporting goes to. There's a big difference between a poll worker and a poll watcher. A poll worker is someone that's paid by the county or the state that has direct access to ballots. Poll watchers are the political piece. What the RNC is doing is they're taking traditionally poll watchers, folks who are in the room to make sure their ballots go in the right box, and training them so that they can actually access the ballots, have touch feel of those ballots, and that's where this problem really becomes ugly. Matthew, to you, you've been in New Hampshire reporting on how the big lie has taken hold there. What are election officials doing to respond, and what can they do if the poll workers who should be poll watchers but are poll workers here become part of that problem?
So in most states, the Secretary of State is actually rational, even as Republicans, as we learned in Georgia, Republican Secretary of State. In New Hampshire, the Secretary of State is a Republican who has already held 6 meetings to try to dismiss the lies and the conspiracy theories with voters there. New Hampshire's always held safe, secure elections, but the lie has taken hold, and these conspiracy theories have taken hold in New Hampshire. So he has to do it. The Secretary of State, as Heidi knows full well, because she's done a lot of reporting from Michigan, is going out of her way. And I think the other thing, as you alluded to, there was a testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee today where secretaries of state and election workers came up. All of this, not only are they trying to keep people from voting, certain people from voting, because I think for some reason Republicans at some point decided they can't win popular votes. They can't win if everybody votes. So their goal now is to keep certain people from voting. It's pretty clear that's what their goal is in the course of this, because they think they've come to the conclusion of that, is that there is a straight line between the big lie, these conspiracy theories, and this intimidation to violence. And what was testified today by secretaries of state and election workers is the threat of violence is real. It's making it harder to recruit people to work at the polls. It's making the job of Secretary of State harder for the people that stand up for integrity and do this. And it's the big lie that led, as we've learned over the course of the summer, the big lie that led directly to the violence at the Capitol. And so this is not just some theoretical political argument. All of this stuff they're doing from lying conspiracy theories to voter intimidation leads directly to this rising tide of violence that's affecting our election workers. And when you can't do that, when you can't conduct an election, you don't have a democracy anymore.
And they call it voter integrity.
And Michael,
yeah. Yes, Heidi, real quick.
Can I just clarify something? All of
Sure.
these individuals also have to go through training by their local election clerks. It's just that they're also getting this outside coaching from the RNC, as well as a host of other groups, including one I listened to on Sunday night that said people should call 911 if they had problems. So there's just a lot of potential there for chaos. But the RNC makes clear that these individuals also have to go through this other training through election clerks. They're just coaching them as well on the side on how to contest votes and voting processes.
And that Heidi, is a problem because they're paid state workers. Those are paid individuals.
Yes, correct.
And the parties have typically and traditionally stayed away from that. You have nothing to do with them. Poll watchers, yes, those are your folks. Those are your grassroots people. Poll workers, you recommend them, and they are scrutinized by the board. Now the RNC is grabbing them back and saying, so in addition to what they're telling you, we want you to know and be able to do this. Heidi Presbala, Matt Dowd, and
exactly
Cornell
right.
Belcher, thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it. Ahead for us, Matt just referenced it, how Congress is looking to protect election workers as threats against them increase. Back with that after a quick break.